The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Those two books have molded who I am today. The Hobbit was the first book I ever read, and it will forever have this magical feeling that one can only link to childhood. And I think without Lord of the Rings, I wouldn't be interested in world building, or for that matter, would I have decided from a young age to be an actress or a film director. I owe a lot to those stories, and I think it's only fair that I pay tribute to them. The other day, I discovered Kate Kavanagh's series of Today I Write Like Insert Famous Author. And I'm gonna be honest, it's a brilliant idea. So I'm inspired to make my own version, but with a cooking twist. Hello lovelies, so today we're going to follow J.R.R. Tolkien's principle for better writing. Unlike many other authors, Tolkien doesn't actually have a step-by-step schedule of his writing day, so we will follow some of his writing principles and see where that leads us. So I think to put us in the Middle-earth mood, I'm going to have to cook a lot of Hobbit food. I think it's necessary, don't you think? The first thing that's very important to do is to start the day with a breakfast and then a second breakfast. I didn't film the first breakfast because who wants to see this? It's just me trying to get out of my hibernation and slumbering some food in my mouth. But before we start cooking, let's talk a little bit about his writing principles and what we're going to explore today. So today we're going to follow 5 of Tolkien's most important principles when writing. The first one would be to lay the groundwork. Tolkien loved to draw his characters before he wrote them. He needed a visual representation of what the characters are, the map, the world, the buildings. So this is how he really visualized them. I personally have drawn the maps of my world, but I haven't actually drawn the portrait of my 4 main characters, which is something we're gonna do today, and I think it's gonna be quite fun because I don't know how to draw that well. Tolkien admitted in an interview that he didn't know how to draw either, but I've seen his stuff and it's far better than mine. And I've also decided to map a part of my world that I haven't been very precise with. It's a part of the world that I'm actually discovering a bit more right now in this second installment of my trilogy. So basically I'm going to take the old maps I've drawn and draw a new one and more precise today. I unfortunately don't have a pencil to draw the map, so I'm just going to do it with a pen. And we'll see what happens. But I know the map pretty well, so it should be fine. Okay, I'm not a cartographist, so this is part of the kingdom that I am writing in now. So there are still a lot of blank spaces that obviously are not going to be blank, but I yet have to know what exists, what villages exist in those parts of the world. So yeah, it's not very beautiful map, but it does help me guide my heroes. Right now, where I write, they're right over here. And by the next 5 chapters they're going to be over here, so it's important to know exactly where they're going through, what role they're taking, and what they're going to encounter on their way there. So it actually really was a cool exercise. I really enjoyed this. This is a quick look at my previous maps. So this is the map of the world that I did again over here, but yeah, actually I think I prefer my old one. There's like 3 divisions in my world. Division 1 is division of the wizards and witches, Division 2 is division of the spirits of the world, and Division 3 is division of the creatures. So by having all those maps and now including like more detailed maps of some kingdom, this basically is the map of let me show you. This over here is just a detailed map of the Royaume des Antes and Montagne du Roi, which is 2 different kingdoms, so it's those 2 kingdoms in a bit larger. But initially my heroes started over here, and on the first book they went all the way up there, which I haven't actually done a map of this, even though I'm quite aware of what's happening here, but I haven't done this work. So that could be something to do for another time. I'll probably just do the same work I did here for this part of the world, because I wrote the whole book over here, so I know exactly what happens. Yeah, and by the end of the second book they're gonna be over here, so yeah, it's pretty good. Hello, so this is quite later during the day. I'm wearing my pajamas and I'm ready to go to bed. So I tried drawing the 4 main characters of my story, but every time I draw the characters, I'm thinking firstly that I want to know how to draw better, which I don't, and secondly, these are not my characters. I can't really put down into paper how I think they look, so every time I try to draw them, they look weird. They don't look like the characters I envisioned. So this one is Galiagri, who is the guy that I called later Martin. This one is Viggo. This is Ebron. And this over here is Vera. And on this side we can see a very weird picture of Cyrilla. I didn't make Tauron. I tried making Tauron, as you can see I failed, so I gave up basically. So yeah, because I'm not very satisfied with how I drew them, and I don't think I can draw them any better than that. I'm not good at drawing what I imagine. So I don't think this specific exercise is useful for me, though I did enjoy it. So next to each sketch I wrote down the portrait of each character, meaning like basically how tall they are, how old they are, what hair they have, their eyes, their basic personality. So it helps me basically to have like a small condensed version of who they are. So as you can see, I'm not editing this in chronological order, so back to daytime me. So Tolkien's second principle is not so much a principle as it is him just drawing from his life experience. He says it's very important to perform little failures. Now what does he mean by that? Tolkien wrote about 100 times the first chapter of The Lord of the Rings before he actually settled on the one we all read. Aside from that, he also changed a lot of his characters' names throughout the years. It's quite funny because about 2 months ago I changed 2 of my main characters' names. For those of you that don't know, it's been 10 years that I've been writing the same book. So for the last 10 years I've been calling the characters with 2 names that I now changed. But I'm not sure that I actually like the change that I made. The 2 original names, I kind of started disliking them because I found them very far-fetched. But I now realized after changing them that I kind of grew fond of them. So I might change them back, which is a decision that I'm going to have to take today while vlogging. So there we go. So the first thing that I changed in my book is my main character's best friend's name. Initially his name was Galiagri, which is a bit of a weird name. I made it up myself when I was 11. And I've stuck with it for the past more than 10 years. But now I'm thinking maybe it should be more mainstream, because it doesn't make sense that it's a weird name. He doesn't actually come from the different magical world. He comes from the mainstream world, so he should have a more normal name. So I changed it to Martin. But I hate it. I hate it because he will always be Galiagri. He will always be Galiagri. And I know it's a weird name, but it's stuck now. I can't change it. It doesn't make sense. It's like he loses his personality if I change the name. So I might change it back. And I think I'll change it back. So this is my decision. I've decided to change it back. The second name is another important character's name. I don't know how to classify him. He's just a helpful guy that they meet and is really present in the universe with them. His name initially was Tauron, which is again another name I made up when I was 11. And now his name is Lucien. He comes from the magical world, so it doesn't really matter if his name is a bit weird. The only thing is that I found Tauron not the best name for him, a bit like, I don't know. I was never a fan of the name. So I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna change it back to Tauron or keep Lucien. This one is a toughie. Galiagri was easier because I really liked Galiagri, so should I name him Lucien? Should I name him Tauron? I mean, Tauron is more unique technically to my universe. No one else is called Tauron, so maybe that's a good thing. Should embrace it. That's a toughie. Okay, I don't think I'll be able to make the decision right now. Hopefully, I'll have decided by the end of the day. So I'll update you. Just an FYI, for those of you that don't know, I write my book in French. That's why the names are very French sounding. It's normal. It's not weird. That part is not the weird part. But just the name altogether is a bit weird. But that's fine though. That's fine. Tolkien's third principle, I'm not gonna be able to follow. Because basically it is that he loved writing on his typewriter. I don't have a typewriter, but it's important to mention that also Tolkien dreamed of having his own, built to his own measures, electronical typewriter, which is basically a computer. He wanted to have an electronical typewriter built to his own specifications, on which he could actually type his Fëanorian script. That would have been amazing. So okay, I have a computer, I don't have a Fëanorian alphabet, but okay, close enough. So I'm not gonna write on a typewriter. I don't have it. Let's move on to principle 4. His fourth principle is not so much a principle as just how he performed his best writing. He says that he was the most creative when writing in bed with some hot tea, which I think I can do. And to honor that, I found a recipe for Aragorn's Athelas tea, which I'm gonna make because, as you can hear, I'm also a little bit sick, so it's perfect.
Do you know the Athelas plant? Athelas? Kingsfoil. Kingsfoil, it's a weed.
For the Athelas tea, you're going to need 2 lemons, a ginger root, a bit of fresh mint, some garlic, trust me, and a little bit of honey. Cut and juice the 2 lemons, then cut and peel the ginger root. Peel your garlic and then smash it, don't cut it. Finally, add everything together and then pour some boiling water on top of everything. And voila!
Okay, so I just made the Athelas tea, and I have to be honest, I expected it to be disgusting, but it's actually quite nice. It has a lot of taste, and both me and Tadeusz are a bit sick, so this is the best remedy. So anyway, now I'm gonna go in bed, write a little bit, follow Tolkien's advice, you know. Now, Tolkien's final principle is actually going to be the most fun, I believe. Tolkien loved to write his prose first into poems. This helped him keep this poetry that you can hear in every single one of his sentences. And I think it's a very good exercise. I just want to mention that I think his principles are golden. Because one of the reasons why I'm stuck in the second installment of my book is that I haven't mapped correctly this part of the world, and because I've lost my touch with my prose. I'm not very happy with my prose. So I think if I do map the world and write a poem about this chapter, I might actually just unlock my creativity. So I think this is necessary. So now it's midday and I'm kind of hungry. So we're gonna cook a pie, a Hobbit pie with chicken, mushroom. You know what? I'll just show you. First I have to clean up. Much better. Okay, so it's not technically a Hobbit recipe I found on the internet, but it's a mixture of Jamie Oliver's recipe and a bit of my creation. But it looks good, it tastes good, and it really looks like something that you would eat in the Shire. So let's make this, eat this, and then continue writing, shall we?
First, let's make the short crust pastry. To make it, all you need is 600 grams of flour, 250 grams of butter, and 250 grams of cheddar cheese. You want to put cling film all around the dough and leave it 30 minutes in the fridge. You will then need 3 large chicken breasts, some spring onions, mushrooms, some more butter, 2 kinds of mustards, some thyme, I mean figuratively and literally, a bit of creme fraiche, and some cooking skills. In a very hot pan, you want to start cooking the chicken. Add a drizzle of olive oil, your fresh thyme, and follow it by some butter. And then it's time to add your spring onions. Oh, and don't forget your mushrooms like I did in this voiceover. And now it's time for the spices. Add the 2 different kinds of mustard, a little bit of flour for the sauce. You then want to add your chicken stock, which I didn't mention before, but I do now. And finish it with some creme fraiche. You then want to let it simmer a little bit on a low fire. Finally, it's time to spread your dough. You only want to use half of it because you will need the other half for the top of the pie. And while I slave in the kitchen, let's have a little Tolkien trivia. Because let's face it, otherwise it's a bit boring. Did you know that Tolkien actually created 15 languages between the dates of 1910 and 1930? Just another proof of his genius. And now back to the cooking. Once you've put the filling in the pie, spread it around so that you make sure that every little piece of pie will have chicken. A little bit of egg wash to make it golden, and off to the oven it goes at 180 for 40 minutes. In the magical realm that is editing, you never have to do dishes or ever clean up after yourself. It's the best place to cook.
And it's finally out. It looks pretty good. Okay, so I finished baking the pie, but I'm gonna wait for Sotiris because it looks really good. Now I'm just gonna change out of those clothes because they're full of flour, and I'm gonna write a little bit, and then we're gonna write the poem. And because we're approaching the end of the day, I have to finally take the decision of whether or not I'm gonna keep the name Tauron or name him Lucien. I think, and I can't guarantee that this is my final decision, but I think I'm gonna keep the name Tauron, at least for now. I'm gonna undo the Lucien thing. Yeah, I'm gonna undo that. So, decision taken. And now we're finally gonna write the poem that I have been procrastinating writing all day long. And because it is the hardest bit to do, I'm obviously gonna do this at midnight, because this is how we do things. Okay, so the poem I wrote isn't very good, but basically what I'm writing is about a specific palace that has a lot of history, and my characters just arrived there and they're gonna be in a way trained but also held hostages there. I've been stuck because I don't really enjoy this moment in the book. It's not a very fascinating moment, not much happens, everything's out of their control. So I thought maybe writing a poem about the history of this building would help me. So again, it's in French, so I don't see what you will understand. If you're French, you might understand something. It's not very good anyway, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it. Château construit de la montagne, cruauté ancienne vivant dans ses murs, l'ombre glaciale du temps s'éloigne, jamais percée par la lumière obscure. Mensonge, malice et trahison, vivant dans l'ombre de l'oubli et de la confusion, statues de bois souffrant silencieusement, prophéties incomprises commençant seulement maintenant à dérouler leur emprise sur l'esprit de l'homme croyant en avoir la maîtrise. Rien que de l'oubli. Le vide de l'inconnu et les remords de l'histoire noient dans cette salle tout espoir de victoire. I don't know, I might take some of those sentences and incorporate them in my prose. I'll do that probably tomorrow if I have some time. I don't think I have the mindset right now to continue writing because it's a bit late. And yeah, I'm a bit tired. I think that's it. I also want to mention that Tolkien is the person that coined the word Eucatastrophe. Now you might not know what that is, so let me explain. A Eucatastrophe means basically a good catastrophe. It's a sudden, happy turn of events that brings tears of joy to the readers. It's basically a tragedy we all expected, surprisingly reversed. And it is by far one of the most important traits to a successful fairy tale. Now you might be the most cold-hearted person out there, but you can't tell me you didn't feel a little bit of emotion when...
If ever I was to marry someone, it would have been her. It would have been her.
Okay, you might not have cried, but it is a very touching moment, isn't it? So that is it for us today. Don't forget to join us next week where we have a C.S. Lewis inspired writing session, and God knows he has a schedule. If you haven't already, go check out Kate Kavanagh's channel. She made a very good series about Today I Write Like insert famous author, and it's really, really good, so go check it out. I'll have a link down below. And I'm wishing you all a very good day. Bye!